Now, I'm not exactly sure what my intentions are with this video or what I'm hoping you guys will get out of it, but I think it's something that does need to be talked about. And especially because a lot of the drive behind this channel and the build is to inform you guys on different stages of a build, what the capabilities are with certain applications and certain configurations of suspension products. So I think it's going to be a very important video for you Tacoma guys. Brought my notepad here with all my trusty facts so I could go ahead and give you guys the information you guys need to know. But before we go ahead and get into that, I'm something of a businessman. So we got to talk about today's sponsor, which is me, myself, and I, and the new merch line that I dropped. Right here, I'm rocking the OG t-shirt, which shows the OG logo, front and back. So if you guys are interested in supporting the channel and picking up any merch, whether it be stickers or shirts, I have 2 shirts on the website, 4 different stickers. Go ahead and check out the website, www.shopdesertdime.com. Thank you all you guys for your support. Now let's go ahead and go over all these cold hard facts. Now, as you can see here behind me, the truck is facing the wrong way. Usually when I'm recording videos in the garage, you guys are seeing the truck from the front because I like to back into my garage. But we rarely ever get to see it from the back. Pause. But all we're talking about today is the rear end and the BBL that the truck got. BBL Drizzy. So yes, we do have the truck face in, ass up. Let's go ahead and talk about why the rear end of my truck sucks ass. So if you guys have been following the channel and the build process for some time now, you will know that about 2 to 3 months ago at King of Hammers, truck got into a little bit of a fender bender. So I thought, you know, this is probably the time to go and switch to the 3.0 version, which entails fiberglass front and rear, front bumper, rear bumper, etc. And that is where the problem started to happen, because before that, the truck was running pretty good in the rear end. I got it to a point where it was running pretty good for a Tacoma. So you might be asking yourself, Dime, how did switching all these things up make the rear end worse if it was already running good? Let's go over that. As you guys know, off-road performance relies a good amount on weight, whether it be weight distribution front and rear, the amount of weight you have in certain areas, where your weight's located, stuff like that. Again, I got the rear end to a point where it was performing pretty well, and that was all thanks to the Deaver U402 Stage 1 leaf springs that I have. I was running the Deaver J66 before, but after certain modifications, those were just too light, too soft, and I was just blowing through the springs way too easily. So I switched up to the U402 Stage 1s, but before I did, I was consulting with a bunch of different off-road people in the industry, and a few of them said the U402 Stage 1 is going to be too stiff for you if you're not running added weight in the rear. Now, a quick little lesson on the Deaver U402s. They have 3 different stages, Stage 1, Stage 2, and Stage 3. Stage 1 is for 0 to 200 pounds of added weight in the rear. Stage 2 is for 2 to 400 pounds of added weight, and Stage 3 is for...
Brother, what's that?
400 to 600 pounds of added weight. So I have the Stage 1, which is for 0 to 200 pounds of added weight in the rear. And what some people had told me was if you don't have close to 100 to 200 pounds of added weight, they're going to be too stiff. Now at the time I had a full-size spare in the bed, which was about 83 pounds. So I thought, okay, I'm close enough to the 100 mark, and I'm going to be adding a few more things to the bed of the truck, which will get it closer to that 200 mark, so it'll be totally fine. So I got the leaves put in, off-roaded on them. They felt night and day perfection compared to the J66. But then fast forward, and I switched up the whole rear end of my truck. The things I switched up in the rear of my truck is I had the fiberglass bed sides added. I removed the stock spare tire that was underneath the truck that I kept there for added weight to put this high clearance cross tube from Archive Garage to tie together the shackles and hangers. I also wanted more clearance in the rear, so I took off the stock rear bumper, which had the tow hitch receiver, and added this Dirt King plated rear bumper. Now, all of the things I just talked about were done roughly around the same time. I removed the stock spare and put the high clearance cross tube, and then 2 days later I sent the truck off to San Diego to have the bed sides and the rear bumper put on. So when I got the truck back and I started to drive it around, I felt a drastic difference in the rear end. Like I could really tell that there was a lack of weight in the rear because the truck felt super light on the tires, and like any imperfection in the road, any bump in the road, any pothole, anything remotely not perfect on the road, I could feel the whole truck like jump, shift, go side to side. The steering wheel was kind of walking away from me. So I knew like, okay, there's not nearly enough weight in the rear in general, and especially for the leaf springs I have in there right now. And in my mind, I knew all the weight that I'd shed recently, so I knew it was a weight problem, but I just didn't know exactly how much weight I lost. So that's where the notepad comes in. Today I started to calculate all the weight that I removed and all the weight that was re-added to see what the difference was and how much weight I'm actually losing at this point in time. So I have all the numbers here, but keep in mind a lot of this stuff is not on the internet at all. Like I looked for so long and I couldn't get exact answers on a lot of the stuff on this list for how heavy it is or how much it weighs. So I had to estimate in some areas, did some educated guessing. So starting off with the rear bumper and the hitch, that did have a definitive number online. Essentially, all of that adds up to 93 pounds. It's 38.5 pounds for the stock bumper, 51.5 pounds for the hitch receiver, and about 3 pounds for the hardware that it takes to bolt all that up. So 93 pounds just in the bumper alone, gone off the truck. Now moving on to the bed sides, that's where things got kind of dicey. I couldn't find an exact weight for the bed sides, but I could find an exact weight for the bed as a whole, which is the actual like composite tub with the 2 bed sides on it, which is 250 pounds. So 250 pounds, I carried the stock bed sides off of it, so I want to estimate that they're probably about 50 pounds each, so 100 pounds worth of weight in both bed sides being gone. I think that math kind of maths, right? 100 pounds worth of bed sides and 150 pounds for the tub. I don't know. Anyways, we're going to estimate it at about 100 pounds total for the bed sides. Now onto the spare wheel and tire. If you guys watched me do the install on the high clearance cross tube video, I measured the spare tire when I took it out that day, but for some reason, I rewatched the video. I have no footage of me like actually weighing it or talking about how much it weighed, but I can vaguely remember in my head it was somewhere in the 60s to 70 pound range. I want to say it was like 73-ish pounds or something. I couldn't find a definitive number online, but through like a Forerunner forum or something, people estimated about 63 pounds for their stock spares. So I'm gonna roughly estimate 70 pounds for the stock steel wheel and the tire on it. So for the 70 pounds on the spare, the 100 pounds for the bed sides, and the 93 pounds for the bumper and tow hitch, that was a total loss of 263 pounds from the rear end of this truck. Now think back a few minutes ago when I said to run these leaf springs, they wanted you to have close to 200 added pounds of weight. I have now shed 263 pounds of weight. So I went 200 pounds the opposite way. I'm now like almost 400 pounds off of the target weight I need for these leaf springs. But you guys also have to keep in mind that I did add a few things back to the truck when doing this. So let's go over the added weight. So like I said, I had to take that stock spare tire out to add the high clearance cross tube, but the high clearance cross tube only weighed about 7 pounds, I'm estimating. The package itself was 11 pounds, so factoring out all the hardware that came in it, I'm gonna estimate that high clearance cross tube 7 pounds. I guess the hardware is going on it, so let's say closer to 10 pounds. We'll do 10 pounds of weight for that, right? The fiberglass weight. Again, this is not something that's online right now, but it's fiberglass. It's lighter than shit. So after consulting with somebody who also has the same exact fiberglass set as I do, we were both saying maybe around 10 to 15 pounds per side. So we're gonna estimate about 30 pounds added back with the fiberglass. Now the Dirt King bumper does have its weight on their website, which is 31 pounds, but that's compared to the 93 pounds I lost taking off the stock bumper and hitch. So all the weight that we got added back to the truck in replacement parts was about 68 pounds. So we lost 263 and we added back about 68. So if we're gonna go ahead and try to estimate how much weight I've actually lost in the rear end after taking stuff off and re-adding stuff, we're still at about 200 pounds of weight lost in the rear end with this whole transformation we did. Is it even fair to call it a BBL at this point? I mean, she's a little bit wider, but she lost 200 pounds. So you can imagine, I have my stock weight. They want me to have 200 pounds of added weight. I went 200 pounds the opposite way of losing weight. So now I'm just super, super light in the rear end. So I hope you can imagine in your head, I'm not being dramatic at all when I say the driving experience of this truck after all these modifications were done and all this weight was lost was horrendous. I was like self-conscious driving people. It was so bad. I hated driving it. And you know it's bad when you don't like driving your own project vehicle. You know something's not right. So yeah, this thing was skipping all over the road. It was super light. Every bump I was breaking my back on because all that energy is just getting transferred up into my seat. It's just, ugh. And I could only imagine what it would be like to try to off-road with that. I have less weight, so I have less traction on the tires, less power going to the ground. I have less weight, so if I go through whoops or anything, the weight distribution is off. All of the weight is in the front, so the back end's gonna boop. It's gonna send its ass to the moon. And that is a problem we tried fixing with all the work we did in the rear end. So yeah, I hope I've effectively shared with you guys why the rear end of this truck was performing so damn poorly after all this work has been done. But guys, don't think for a second that all this work was not worth it at all. This was totally worth it. All I have to do is just add more weight back to the truck. It's that simple. And I already have plans in my mind and plans I've already talked to Slaughterhouse Performance about, doing some stuff to the rear end of the truck that we can get all that weight back and make it really, really functional. Now, real quick, before we talk about what that plan is, I want to shout out Emmett because he gave me one of his spare tires he had laying in his backyard so I can have a little more added weight. I am always running my full-size spare here, but to get more of that weight back and plant the rear end a little more, he gave me another full-size 33 with a wheel inside of it. So since I added that in there a couple days ago, the driving has felt way, way better. It's still not perfect, but it is way better than before. I could drive around town and not feel every little bump in the road. So shout out Emmett. Right now I'm double stacked with 33s with the Alpine Off-Road Desert Dime Collab spare tire strap, which I am making the second batch of them now. A lot of you guys have been asking for these to come back. So head over to Instagram and give me ideas of designs and colors, or leave them in the comments here because I build these strap designs based off of what you guys want. So I guess this is a good time for another little plug. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, head over there because I was asking on there for your guys' opinions on what we want these straps to look like, and I will be posting updated photos of renderings and stuff of what the strap could potentially look like. So if you guys are interested in getting a spare tire strap, I'm going to be doing Y straps, single straps for standing spares. Speaking of standing spares, that's a good segue. So let's go ahead and talk about that plan I have with SHP and what to do to add more weight to the rear. I think one of the key components to getting a lot of weight back in the rear is running 2 spares instead of the 1 that I've been typically running. I want to start running 2 from now on. But like I said, this still isn't quite enough weight. I also wanted to add a full-size off-road jack like a Badlands jack or a Pro Eagle jack to the bed of the truck, but I don't want to keep drilling holes in the bed of my truck to mount it. So with all of that I just talked about, I came to the conclusion of why don't I just have Slaughterhouse Performance make me a bolt-in spare tire carrier slash jack carrier, sort of like almost like a bed cage, but not a suspension bed cage, just like a utility bed cage. Like if you guys know 454 Motorsports, that's exactly what I'm thinking of right there. They make bolt-in bed cages for Raptors and stuff, but they don't make them for Tacomas, which is why I want to get a custom one made so it could bolt in to the existing factory bolt holes. So the vision is to have a bed cage made that bolts into the back 4 bolt holes that can stand 2 standing spares on the outside. In the middle, maybe have a sloped sort of ramp that I can mount an off-road jack to, and then maybe even behind it have a square cubby to fit a 5-gallon gas jug. I don't know if you could really envision it right now with this strap in the way, but just imagine, you know, the 2 board cage right there, 2 standing spares on each side, a jack sloped in the middle, sort of display-like, and behind it a 5-gallon gas jug. I think that would be pretty badass. I mean, it holds 2 spares standing up, so I can hopefully save a little bit of room. All that tube work is going to add a lot of weight to the rear. I'm going to have 2 spares that add a lot of weight to the rear. I'm going to have an off-road jack that's going to add a lot of weight to the rear. I won't have to smoke holes through the bed to mount a jack, and all of it bolts into the factory bolt holes. It just sounds perfect. It just makes sense. So that's sort of my plan right now. It's in the early stages still, but that's my plan right now, to get a lot of weight added back to the rear end of the truck. And I think that project alone will get me exactly where I need to be with the weight in the rear end of this truck. So when the time is right, I'm going to be heading over to Slaughterhouse Performance, SHP, over in Anaheim, and going to be working with him on mocking up, designing, and having him make a full bed cage to hold 2 spares and the jack and possibly a 5-gallon gas jug or whatever cool ideas we come up with in the moment, you know. Until then, this is my setup, a 2-stack spare, which I absolutely love because it adds all the weight. It looks really aggressive, and I get to utilize the spare tire strap for a double stack, which I always preach it can do, and now I can actually show it off to you guys. It can fit a double stack. So yeah, that's my little rant for today. This is something that I've been kind of rolling over in my head for a while, thinking about the weight loss, thinking how can I improve the rear, and I've also had a few of you reaching out to me in the DMs asking how I like the U402s, and I've also had people asking how does the truck feel since you got it back. So I thought it was time to update you guys on the truck because, again, a big focus of this channel is giving you guys information on Tacomas in general, the rear ends of Tacomas, different configurations and setups for Tacomas, and especially if you guys are following this build specifically, I think it's good information for you guys to know, and it's good information for you guys to keep in mind. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you guys are interested in merchandise, head over to shopdesertdime.com where I'm selling t-shirts, stickers, and more products to come like the spare tire straps. Make sure you go follow me on Instagram so you guys can help design the next batch of spare tire straps. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Welcome to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink cause I think I'm going all in. Get me a shrink who can